Hi, I'm Thomas Bowles, Prince William County Agricultural Extension Agent. Welcome to our video.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's Wednesday class. Today's class is on the Drinking Water Clinic for Prince William County for 2023. Our coordinator is our environmental education specialist, Valerie, who unfortunately is at training today, but she has recorded a presentation for us. And then at the end, myself and Christina will be taking questions if you have them. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Valerie Hulsman. I'm an environmental educator with Virginia Cooperative Extension, Prince William Unit. Thank you very much for joining us for our annual Drinking Water Clinic. This is our virtual kickoff meeting option. We do host this program in collaboration with the Virginia Household Water Quality Program. So again, thank you very much for joining us. We will talk very briefly about how you need to be collecting your samples, what the collection day process will look like for you to get your samples into us, what the next steps will be, and we'll also give you some time at the end of the presentation to ask any questions that you might have about the process. So again, thanks very much for joining us. You as a private well owner are very integral to protecting your own well water quality. There are no federal or state standards that dictate what your well water quality should look like. So this program is a very cost-effective way for you to get an idea of what contaminants might be present in your well water, as well as give you some general options of things that you can do to mitigate those contaminants. We do recommend that you test your well water every 1 to 3 years, ideally for bacteria. Every year is a good way just to make sure that that water quality is staying safe. Every 3 years for all of the other possible contaminants. So this Virginia Household Water Quality Program has been around for quite a bit. Over 38,000 wells and springs have been analyzed across all Virginia counties. This program is hosted in collaboration with local extension educators, agents, and volunteers. It always consists of a kickoff meeting where we cover how you need to collect your sample. There is a collection day where you will bring your sample back into us so we can get it down to the lab to get tested. There will also be an interpretation meeting where we will cover those results. This will be co-hosted this year at the end of May, along with the state coordinator, Erin Ling, who will be able to give you a little bit more background and detail into what your results mean. So definitely join us for that to find out a little bit more about what your water quality is looking like. Those results from your specific well will be emailed to you confidentially, and that will come about 5 weeks after your sample has been processed by the lab. So there are a lot of different components that can affect water quality. Some may be readily visible to us, and some, like hydrogeology, we don't see or don't really think about too much. But the way the water flows through soils, sediment, bedrock, these things can all contribute to additional pollutants making their way into your drinking water. Local land uses can also play a big role. Things like animal waste, chemical applications for fertilizers or pesticides, and other local land uses like industrial uses or commercial uses. Even things like putting down road salt over the winter can influence your water quality. Where your well is located is very important. That process was performed during construction, so where the well is dependent on a few different regulations, but ongoing maintenance is completely up to you as a private well owner. The treatment systems that you may have in place and your plumbing can also play a big role into what your water quality is looking like. Fixtures up to 2014 can contain some lead. So that's why we had that first draw protocol, which we'll talk about a little bit more in another slide or two, that will allow the water to sit in the pipes a little bit longer and potentially pick up on some some lead that may be present within the pipe. So very important to follow the sampling protocols to make sure you're getting a good sample. So your analysis will take a look at all of these parameters. While there is no federal or state parameter that dictates what your well water quality should look like, your lab results will be compared to federal EPA drinking water standards to determine if you have water quality issues that you may need to mitigate. So in the past in Prince William, a few of these have been high. For example, pH has been a little bit more acidic. This can cause certain chemicals to leach out from your pipes into your water or other components. Hardness has been a problem where soap may not be able to lather. You might have additional kind of sedimentation of nutrients into your water as well. E. coli bacteria can cause gastrointestinal illnesses. That has also been a problem for some of our participants in the past. So definitely very important to take a close look at your results as well as follow the sampling protocols to make sure you're getting a good sample so we can take a look at these parameters. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the kit. So this is what you are going to be receiving from us when you come to pick it up. Since we're hosting this meeting virtually, you will need to stop by the office. We're going to be available next week, and we'll have a slide that has all this time laid out for you. You should have received an email too that has the location of our office and the times that you're able to stop by Monday and Tuesday next week. That's April 10th and April 11th. Now, talking a little bit more about the sampling. So the first draw sample allows time for the water to sit in your pipes. So that's a very important part of the process to allow time for things like copper and lead to settle out to see what it is looking like within your water. So this is your first draw bottle. It does say first draw on it. It has a nice apparent X on the top of the lid. So this is what you want to use to collect that first sample. So after you've spent some time taking a look at your kit, you'll see that you have 4 bottles in here total. So again, first draw sample, this is the bottle you want to use to begin with. Also take a look at the paper that has been provided within your kit. You will see some instructions in here. There's also a link to a video that covers the sample collection process very well that was produced by the state. So definitely take a look at that video first before you collect your sample. I would recommend the night before you collect your sample also filling out this questionnaire. And this will get your name, email address, all that good information. It will ask you a few questions about your water source, what treatment you may already be using, as well as some information about your pipes. So definitely let us know if you have any questions about this form, and we'd be glad to walk you through it a little bit more in detail. So back to the bottles. So 4 bottles are included in the kit total. Walking you through the process a little bit. So stop using your water, if at all possible, 10 p.m. the night before. You will be collecting your sample in the morning of April 12th before you bring it into our office. So stop using your water, 10 p.m. You can still use water to flush your toilets, things like that, but in general, you don't want to use large quantities of water to make sure you're giving time for everything to settle out within the pipes. Do make sure that your sink is clean and there's no materials that may contaminate your sample. As far as the source, using something like a kitchen sink is ideal because that's where you're potentially getting your drinking water from. A bathroom sink can also be used. When you are using the bottle, make sure to not touch the inside. Wash your hands first before touching the bottle and removing the cap. Do not remove the cap until you are ready to take the sample. So again, you're going to start with the bottle that has the X on the top. Open the bottle up, collect the sample. Don't allow it to overflow. Once it's done, go ahead and replace the lid on the top, and then you'll move on to the next 3 bottles shortly afterwards. So after this first straw sample is collected, you'll put this bottle to the side, allow the water to run for a minute, wash your hands one more time, and then you'll go ahead and collect the remaining samples. You'll see 3 different bottles total in this kit. It does not matter the order for the second step for these 3 bottles. So you can fill these bottles up in any order. Just make sure, again, that you're opening the bottle up and you're not touching the inside of the lids when you are opening that bottle. There is a clear bottle that does have some plastic seal over top. It might be a good idea to get the seal off first before you start filling up these 3 bottles. If you're like me, you might struggle a little bit with this plastic covering, so taking this off right before you start filling these 3 up is probably a good way to handle it. Let's see, making sure that we're not skipping any step. Nope. So after all of these have been filled up, you can put them right back into your Ziploc bag. Make sure you're bringing all 4 bottles with you. If you're not going to immediately bring them to our office, you do need to keep them in the refrigerator. So for example, say you're collecting the sample at 4 a.m., but you're not able to get them to us in Manassas until 9 a.m., you do want to make sure you put everything back into the refrigerator so it stays cool until you can get it into us. You do want to bring the questionnaire form with you as well. And ideally, you don't want to get this wet. So bring it with you, but if you can keep it outside of this bag so it stays dry, that would be ideal. The questionnaire is pretty straightforward. It will have the test number on it, which should be left on the form. It will have cover kind of the type of well that you have. So in Prince William County, we do have both drilled wells and bored wells. Drilled wells have that kind of plastic or metal cover on them. They tend to be a little bit deeper. Bored wells are concrete and are a little bit shallower. So we will have both. So make sure you do know what type of well you have before you fill out this form. Spring boxes are a lot less common, although it's possible this might be something that you are using. It's also going to ask you about what treatment device you may be using. Answer this to the best of your ability. It will ask you about how often your water is getting tested, and also about the types of pipes that you have in your home. So you can see up there, lead, copper, brass, plastic are all options. It will ask you a little bit about your current perceptions of your water quality and any problems that you may be experiencing as well. So this can all kind of be helpful when they are providing your results to you in the next coming weeks. So that covers what you need to know for the collection process. Don't forget, you need to come by the office to pick up your collection kit. We will be open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday, April 10th and Tuesday, April 11th, and we will have these kits ready to go for you. So just go ahead and come into the office, stop by. It will be at 8033 Ashton Avenue, Suite 105. Just stop by the front desk and we will get those kits to you. Collection day is going to be Wednesday, April 12th. The drop-off will be early in the morning, so we have enough time to get these kits down to the testing lab. So we will be collecting the kits from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. only. So they do need to be delivered to us at that time. And again, if you are collecting the sample a little bit earlier before you're able to hand deliver that sample into us, make sure you are keeping it refrigerated. As soon as we receive it from you, we're going to put it in our coolers on ice until it can get down to the lab. For the results interpretation, about 5 weeks after you submit your samples, you'll get your private results emailed confidentially to you. The results meeting will cover kind of general problems that are seen with water quality, as well as some solutions to mitigate those potential effects, different treatment options, such as UV, reverse osmosis, chlorination, and other options that might be available. So we very much look forward to seeing you at the kit handoff and kit collection. Please do reach out to us if you have any questions concerning the sampling process. And we look forward to seeing you. Thanks very much for your time and attention. I'm now going to turn it over to Thomas Bowles, who will be available to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions, hopefully I can answer them. But feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask away.
Melissa has a question. It says, will the test check for PFAS?
So PSF is the kind of forever chemicals, and no, unfortunately it won't. As far as I know, we don't have the lab capability to do that quite yet.
Okay, good morning.
Hi, Mary.
Yes, hi. Okay, I understood that I was supposed to pick my kid up on Saturday originally, and then I had arranged to pick it up on Monday the 10th. So are they all only going to be available on Monday the 10th for pickup in Manassas?
Yes, so if you can make it on Saturday to the meeting on Saturday, then you can pick it up there. If you can't, then they'll be available in the office on Monday.
I see. Okay, so the meeting from 12 to 1:30 on Saturday is still being held.
Yes.
And so I can show up for that.
Yes.
Okay, because I thought I was going to be out of town, but now I'm not. So, all right then. Very good, very good.
And you can just tell Valerie that you watched this, so you have all the information, and get the kit and just go.
Yeah, well, I may do it again. Well, I'm going to get paper anyway to prove and to help me with it. All right, okay. It's just that you guys had very short notice on this. Did you send that out ahead of time?
Yes, we did. We
did?
put it out. So it's one of those things where we struggle with the fact that there is no central newspaper that everybody reads in the county anymore. And so we put it out with some of the online papers. We put it out in Facebook groups. We put it out on county press releases. It's on our website, through social media, and still we somehow miss folks. I will tell you, in the future, this typically happens at the end of March, beginning of April. So if you're looking to do this again later on, if you start looking end of February, beginning of March on our website, that's where the information will be.
Okay.
Basis.
All right. This is the first time I've ever participated in it, and I've had a well now since 2001, and only had it checked a few times. So I'm anxious to have this done, and my daughter's as well, which is about 3-year-old well now. Okay, I will get my kit and follow the procedure. So thank you very much.
Sure. And if you think of more questions before Saturday, just ask Valerie.
All right. Okay. Very well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have questions?
Hi, yes, I have a question. My name is Devin DeMario Michael, and this is also the first time I'll be testing our well through this program. And, I saw the list of chemicals and different compounds that will be and elements that will be tested. But to kind of follow up on Melissa's question about PFAS, given all of the development in the area and the complexity of the water table here, I do have pretty significant concerns above and beyond the kind of boilerplate testing of the compounds that are within this list. And I looked on the website for the extension, and they linked to a number of different labs in Virginia and provided a list of what they assess for within your sample. But I couldn't get any further than that. So for example, there was a lab in Fairfax that tested for a comprehensive suite of toxicants. And it seemed like it was only commercial or for Fairfax County. So I don't know if there's kind of an updated list of labs that you can go to.
Yeah, there are mostly most of the private labs will do anywhere in the state. I'm surprised that they would only do Fairfax County. The tricky part is that with well sampling, two things. One is you can pay an awful lot of money to go fishing. And so if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, then you run into the issue of you pay all this money for tests and it may not be the problem, or there may not be a problem, but you don't know because, you haven't picked the right parameter. So that's a little bit tricky. I will say through our tests, one of the tests has to go through civil engineering. And the civil engineering lab is able to test for a lot more things that are listed. And typically what they do is if they find something that is a health concern, they will give a supplemental report. So for example, there are some areas of the state that are naturally high in uranium. And so if they pick up radioactive elements, they're going to send you a report on that, a supplemental report. The things that we test for, generally the 14 parameters, are the quote usual suspects when it comes to issues with well problems in the state. But like I said, through the civil engineering lab, and by the way, that's run by the guy who did all the lead testing for Flint, Michigan. So it's a really good lab. If they pick up anything that is a health concern, they will let you know. But otherwise, we just report on the 14, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's out of Virginia Tech.
Yes.
Down there. Yeah, he's excellent scientist. But, I was also, that's kind of a follow-up question for me is, whenever all of these samples are collected statewide, is there a research study, let's say at Virginia Tech, where they're looking at emerging contaminants or toxicants there?
And so two lines of things. One, they're collecting data and doing research based on what we find in the well samples, but they're also looking overall at what the emerging contaminants or potential contaminants are. And so in an ideal world, again, you can test for all kinds of things and it gets pricey. In an ideal world, they will be developing tests or at least recommending tests for certain people. So like one of the things that we don't test for are petrochemicals, and that you've got to go through a private lab for. And part of that is that we only recommend testing for petrochemicals if you think that's a concern. Because most people in the state we're finding is it's not an issue. But like if you are close to a gas station or bought an old farm that may have had a diesel tank in it one time, you know, or have what are they called, the oil tanks, if you've got the, or had oil heat, those sorts of things you would, you know, would lead you to believe that maybe you need to test for it. But otherwise, we're trying to, one, we're trying to make it as affordable as possible, and two, we're trying to deal with, as I said, the usual suspects. But there is ongoing research about, you know, what should we be looking at, and how do we make that an affordable, accessible test.
Yeah, for sure. That's really interesting. We need the toxicological parameters first to determine if there's an issue, right? And along those lines, like, for example, I live near Quantico, and a lot of the PFAS conversation, PFOA conversation is relevant to military bases.
Mhm.
Is there any sort of research going on that you know of that looks at where the water table extends to around those military bases and the presence of those contaminants?
That is actually a question better asked to the U.S. Geological Survey. So there is a Water Resources Division of USGS in Richmond. And at least when I worked for them, we did a lot of well testing, or drilled a lot of wells and did a lot of aquifer testing at different military bases. At the time, we didn't do Quantico, but it wouldn't surprise me if they've done Quantico already. And we were looking for all sorts of contaminants, including all sorts of really toxic things that you can find at military base. So they would be the best people to ask, because they're the ones doing, because it's federal land. That's the other issue. So they're monitoring what comes off of federal land and what's going on with that. The other thing to think about is that sometimes, you know, we like to think of aquifers as these underground rivers. But depending on what the geology is underneath you, it really depends on how quickly a contaminant can get into a certain aquifer. Like if you've got a really deep aquifer, in an ideal world, it's not going to, it'll take a long time and the soil will filter things out. But by the same token, if you've got a bad well somewhere where those contaminants are and it flushes, you know, those contaminants down into that aquifer, then it can be a little bit or a lot quicker to get those contaminants into people's drinking wells.
Got it. Thank you so much. Those are all my questions. I appreciate you answering them with me and the patience of the group.
No worries. There's somebody else I thought unmuted.
Thomas, did we get any extra tests here? One of our participants wanted to purchase a second test.
Yes, we should. Usually
Okay.
we order from the lab a few, or not usually a few, quite a number of extra kits just in case people decide to go with two.
Okay, that's what I thought. And when they come into the office to pick up, are we accepting a check or putting it in through the Destiny? Do we know?
Question. Theoretically, we have to go through Destiny. Unfortunately, that's the way that tech is
Okay.
set up.
But we can do that from in here. I think Valerie was able to do that had to do that for somebody.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello.
This is Mary again. Since since aquifers came up in conversation, would you like to explain a little bit more? You're saying if the aquifer is deep, what do we know about the topography around here in Prince William as far as the aquifers are, since so many of us depend on wells, and also we have the Occoquan Reservoir, which I understand is fed by aquifers. You know, what all do you know much about that?
So the aquaquan is mostly fed. Well, there's some aquifer, surface aquifer stuff that goes into the aquaquan, but it's mostly fed by rainfall and stormwater runoff. And the aquaquan, as far as drinking water, because it's a municipal drinking water, it gets tested all the time. I mean, on a daily basis. When it comes to the aquifers, USGS has maps of what aquifers are where and where they overlap. Generally speaking, farther in the western part of the county, you have more, what's the word? More aquifers that are basically cracks in the rock, whereas more towards the coastal plain, they're more kind of sand, for lack of a better term, sand-based aquifers. And it also depends on how deep you go. Depends on typically what the material that's actually in the aquifer is, in terms of the structure that, you know, that doesn't allow it to compact into. I'm not explaining this well. So if there was no structure, it was just the water, all of the weight from the soil above it would just squash it.
Right. So that's why those of us who are opposed to data centers are so concerned about Pageland Lane. And that whole question has come up. And we were told that it would take something like 2 years to get a real report, a real water report through the county. So that seemed very, well, it's very appalling to me that, you know, we're not more concerned about it and that we're not able to get a better report on what would happen with all that waste in that area.
I have a personal opinion about that. Unfortunately,
Right.
as a state employee, I can't quite share that.
Okay.
But I would urge you to raise your concerns with the Board of Supervisors, because ultimately they're the ones who make those decisions.
Right, but they're not listening. So anyway, okay, but I mean, as far as scientifically and whatever, they seem to have just brushed it off. And so anyway, okay, well, I'm downstream from that. So I'm on Yatesford Road. And my well, I mean, the water that's coming out of there now, I cannot own any white clothes. So I can't wash my clothes because of the stuff that, you know, the soot, but they're not the
sediment.
The sediment. And I have a filter, but I mean, I have to change it so often. So, this pump is only it's 5 years old, I think. So I don't know. I've been trying to decide what I should do, whether I Virginia Water put in the well, and they I had them out here some time ago, but it's probably been, well, maybe it's 10 years now. So it's a real concern of mine, but, you know, I will check, of course, the quality of it and see what comes back from your report.
Okay, and there may be a better option, a better filter option than the one you have as well, depending on what they find.
Yes. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but you unmuted. Biorison, if that's close. If that's not right, I apologize, but that's what's coming up on my screen. So if you have a question, please ask. Anybody else?
This is Yali Chen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Can I sample the water from multiple taps? I mean,
You would want to do different tests for that. Now, that being said, there's not really a reason to test for different taps.
within just for my well, just within my house, but I have a. That makes sense or not? So maybe it doesn't matter.
It won't matter.
Okay.
Because
Okay, thank you.
all the water is going through the same pipes.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Sure. Dana, did you have a question? Or Diana, excuse me?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just wondering, how do you go about purchasing another kit? I have another property in the county. I didn't think about testing that well, but I should. How would I go about getting another kit?
You'd have to do it register the same way, through Destiny. And then
Through the original way that I
yes.
registered?
And
I wouldn't have to repeat the class, right?
I'm sorry?
I wouldn't have to repeat this class, correct?
Oh, no.
Okay.
So Thomas, once they're in this, it looks like once they're in the system and they do one test and they try to go in and put their same information in for a second one, it's not allowing them to do that. So I don't know, maybe we have to call Aaron or somebody and see if we
Tracy,
can,
probably.
or Tracy, yeah, and see if we can get them to update their.
Well, I'm going to say as a stopgap, and Tracy can yell at us later, we'll take a check.
Oh, I pick up.
Yeah.
Yes, when you pick up on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, you just need to make it out to Treasurer, Virginia Tech.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Unfortunately, our hands are kind of tied by the electronic system at Tech. Anybody else? Well, if that's everybody's questions, thank you all for coming, and we look forward to getting your well tested, and hopefully it will be a very boring test and nothing's wrong. But if there is an issue, hopefully we can help you get it fixed. So thank you all for coming. For those of you who are on wells and on septic, our next class is on the 19th, and we will have our septic specialist, Dr. Brown, talking about septic systems, how they work, and how to maintain them. And hopefully we will see you then. So thank you, everybody, and have a good week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.